Hi everyone, welcome to Mission 2, Blood and Blade. In this mission, the Death Guard are going to get to strike back against the Space Marines. There is a Reaver Sergeant out on patrol and he's come across 6 Poxwalkers. Instead of calling in for help, he's decided to engage them himself. So in this mission, it's the last man standing. 6 against 1, but the Space Marines should be okay. We are going to look at the charge and the fight phase of the core rules after we revisit the move and the shoot. So the Death Guard get to go first. The board is set up. Let's get started. Okay, we start with Death Guard turn 1. If you remember the movement from the first video, you look at the data sheet and find the movement value. For Poxwalkers it's 4 inches. They're going to want to close down this Space Marine as quickly as they can. They don't have any ranged attacks, remember. It's all about getting in close, fighting hand to hand with Poxwalkers. Now they don't shoot, so they could either advance or charge. Now they can charge up to 12 inches. They need a 10-inch charge, which is quite difficult to do. So for this turn, I'll just remind you about advancing. You roll a d6 and they move that many additional inches. So that'd be 3. So they've moved quite close to this Marine in the first turn. And because they're advanced, if they have ranged weapons, they won't be able to shoot and they cannot charge. So that would be the end of the Death Guard's turn 1. Okay, for the Space Marine turn 1, he's not going to try and close down the Poxwalkers because for the purposes of the video, I want the Poxwalkers to be charging the Reaver Sergeant. So he's going to stand still and shoot. Now he has a heavy bolt pistol. Has a range of 12 inches, so they're easily in range, and the type is pistol 1, so it fires 1 shot. The Reaver Sergeant has a a ballistic skill of 3+, so he hits on 3s. Okay, so 5, that is a hit, and if you remember from the first video about shooting, you look at the strength of the weapon, which is 4. The target's toughness, which is 3, so the strength is greater than the toughness, so he wounds on 3s. So 5, that is a wound. Now then, the heavy bolt pistol has an AP -1. The Poxwalkers only have a 7+ save, so the AP -1 would make that 8+ save, so 1 Poxwalker will be slain. Although, if you remember, we talked about it at the end of the last video, they have a special rule called Disgustingly Resilient. This is a Death Guard special rule. It applies to Poxwalkers. So each time a model in this unit loses a wound, you can roll a dice, and on a 5 or 6, that model does not lose the wound. So on a 5 or a 6, the Poxwalker isn't slain. No, it's a 1, he's definitely being killed. So that would be the end of the Space Marines' first turn. Death Guard turn 2. So they're going to move forward again to reduce the charge range. And this turn they're not going to advance. They are going to attempt to charge the Space Marine. So, to charge at the end of the shooting phase, the start of the charge phase, you declare which units are charging against which enemy, and as long as they have not advanced, they can attempt to charge. So to make the charge, You roll 2d6 and you must finish within 1 inch of an enemy unit. So that's a 9-inch charge, they'll easily get in there, they only really need a 3. But before they move, because he has a ranged weapon, he gets to make one last shooting attack against them. It's called Overwatch, and regardless of the ballistic skill of the models, they require a 6 to hit. And that is a 6. Now this represents the defending model snap firing as the enemy come charging in. Okay, so the Marine is hit in Overwatch, and you resolve the shooting as per the shooting phase. So it is Strength 4, Toughness 3, 3's to wound. So that would be a wound and one disgustingly resilient save of 5 or 6 because it's Death Guard. Oh, and that's a 1. So one more is slain on the way in. And you move them to within 1 inch, or just inside 1 inch of the enemy model, they can move up to what they rolled in the charge phase. So they can get around behind him to kind of stop him withdrawing, which we'll cover in a little while. Okay, so after the charge phase, once all the charges have been resolved, you move on to the fight phase, which comes in 3 parts. The first is called Pile In. Now, the unit that charged gets an additional 3 inches of movement to engage the unit in combat, and unlike in the normal move phase, you can move within 1 inch of the enemy model. So if there was more of them in the unit, they could spread out, so there'd be more getting into combat. And if you do a multi-charge, if more than one unit, you can move some across to engage the other unit. So you get an extra 3 inches to move. The second part is make close combat attacks. Now this is resolved quite similarly to the shooting phase. Each Poxwalker has an attacks value, so each Poxwalker has 2 attacks. So there's 4 Poxwalkers remaining, so they get 8 attacks in total. This time though you look at the weapon skill rather than the ballistic skill. And on the data card it says each Poxwalker has an improvised weapon, which is a melee weapon. So, look at the weapon skill of Poxwalker, it is 5+. So they get 8 attacks, there's 4 of them left, and 5+ hitting on 5s. So they get 3 hits. And similarly to shooting, you then look at the strength of the weapon. For the improvised weapon it says strength user. So the strength of the Poxwalker is 3. The toughness of the Reaver Sergeant is 4. So the strength is less than the toughness, so they require 5s to wound. And they get no wounds. So once you'd resolved all the fights for the units that charged, then the Sergeant will get to strike back. So the Sergeant gets 3 attacks back, and he's using his combat blade. Now this is strength user again, but it has a special ability where each time the bearer fights, it can make 1 additional attack with this weapon. So he actually has 4 attacks because he's using his combat blade. If he had more than one kind of close combat weapon, the controlling player can choose which attacks he does with which weapon. Okay, so 4 attacks, weapon skill of 3+, so he is hitting on 3s. That is 3 hits, and it is strength user again, so strength 4, toughness 3, wounding on 3s. Okay, that is 3 wounds. So There's no AP, but again, the save of the Poxwalkers is 7+, so that is potentially 3 slain. And we have to take the disgustingly resilience for those 3 that have been slain. So 3 5-up saves. It's called an invulnerable save really, it's a special rule, but some models get it. So even if their armor's defeated straight away, they get this special save. And they make 1. So 1 stays where he is, and the Space Marine has killed 2 more of the Poxwalkers. And that will be the end of the Death Guard turn 2. Poxwalkers don't have any morale tests to take, despite their losses, because special rule for them on the datasheet, Poxwalkers never have to take morale tests because they're what's called mindless. Okay, so it's the Space Marine player's turn next. He's not going to move, we'll cover fallback slightly later. So he's going to attack back. So again, he gets his 4 attacks with his combat blade. And again, he hits on 3s. That's 4 hits again for the Space Marine. And again, he wounds on 3s. That is 3 more wounds, so potentially it's a Space Marine victory. It all comes down to disgustingly resilient. Make 1 of them, but they're both slain. So, according to the mission, you should now know how to charge and fight with your units, earn victory through brutal close combat. So we are going to have a look now at the advanced rule that comes with this mission, which is falling back. Okay, so the advanced rules for this mission is falling back. Basically, if you are in combat, so you're within 1 inch of an enemy model, and you don't want to stay in combat for whatever reason, you can use your movement phase to fall back, but then you cannot shoot or charge later in the turn. Now when you read through that, it's quite long-winded. Basically what it means is, you might ask why you'd want to fall back. Say there was more of these Poxwalkers fighting this guy, and you didn't think you'd be able to kill them all. Now if you just fell back, you could fall back your move value, but then he would not be able to charge or shoot them, so later on in their turn they'd probably charge him again. So it doesn't, in this sort of situation, it doesn't really seem, you might as well stay and fight and try and take a few more with him. But for example, imagine for instance there was this unit here. Now at the minute they could charge into them, but they couldn't shoot them because obviously there's one of your models within 1 inch of these guys. So if he was to fall back, that would allow this unit here to shoot at these Poxwalkers, potentially killing a couple, and then in the charge and fight phase they could declare a charge against them, and then they could assault them, potentially killing a couple more. So while this guy obviously might have taken out 1, you could potentially then have taken out more than 1, and it's kept this guy alive. So that's really the point of falling back. In this mission 2 it's not really that relevant, because if he fell back he wouldn't be able to then do anything. But when you've got a bigger battle going on with more units, sometimes it's wise to fall back. Now another special rule that some units get, if they have the fly keyword, so units that can fly, or maybe they've got jump packs or wings, if they fall back from combat, then they can shoot and charge as normal. So that is a quick look at falling back and a quick look at mission 2. So now you should have a better understanding of how the charge and fight phases work. In the next mission, we're going to introduce a little bit of terrain and how you move around terrain and then over the top of terrain. And we'll also be introducing the Plague Marines for the Death Guard. So the Death Guard will not only have Poxwalkers, but they will also have a unit with some ranged weaponry. So mission 3 is called Evade Capture, and we'll come on to that video very shortly. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed.